Is Carter Yakemchuk the answer for the Sharks at defense when it comes to the Penguins pick?
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, Grand Poobah, let's go with that right now, of the Reef. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, probably part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today, Daniel G of Elite Prospects joins, where we dive into Carter Yakemchuk, what makes him an intriguing prospect, timeline and development. And then we get some of Daniel's thoughts on the 2024 NHL Draft. So before we do all that, do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go, now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. And Daniel makes his comeback. Daniel, how's it going, buddy?
It's going good. How about you?
Not too bad. It's been a while. I know you've been busy grinding the tape, going to all the games, enjoying all the press box hot dogs, but had to get you back on to talk about a intriguing defenseman in one, Carter Yakemchuk. So if you don't know who Carter Yakemchuk is, he is a 6'3", 394-pound defenseman playing for Calgary in the WHL. This season, he has 66 games, 30 goals, 41 assists, 275 shots on goal. And my dog is very excited about Yakemchuk. But I ask Daniel, what makes Carter Yakemchuk such an intriguing prospect in this year's draft?
Well, one of the first things right off the bat, he's a 6'3" right-hand shot defender. Right-hand shot defenders are at a premium, and Yakemchuk is a productive one. He's a player who's the offensive driver of his WHL team on a pretty anemic offensive team, honestly. Like the leader on their team has like 80 points this season. Like he basically is the general on the ice. He's a prolific downhill attacker. He eats up space. If you want to use a football analogy, he's like Lamar Jackson, like as a quarterback. He wants to take the puck to the net. He's fearless. And he blends a lot of really high-end tools, like a shot, which he can score at a distance, his hands, where he has a crazy amount of large ice ability, a crazy amount of small ice ability. He's very dexterous for his size, and he manipulates. And manipulation is a big factor of translatability nowadays. He looks to freeze defenders. He works complex give-and-go passing plays. He feints. He shoulder shakes. He tries to trap players in poor positions. And then he's also an activator. He's so involved in the play. He's always supporting puck carriers. He's deep in the zone trying to make things happen. He pulls off some of the wildest handle plays I've seen out of a defender this season. He had one where he rushed down the left wing. He took a pass behind his body, pulled the puck through his legs, and then sniped it short side. Like, this is a 6'3" defender doing this. But from your graphic, you see that, 275 shots. This guy averages 8 shot attempts a game roughly, and he reaches up to like 15 to 17 in some points. Like he's a prolific shooter. Now, like, not all of it is nuanced. A lot of it ends up, hitting shins and stuff. But he does have those manipulation qualities to open space and do all that type of good stuff. And like when you're looking at all this in a right-hand shot profile, he has size. That's what really makes him special. And like his transition game, it's risky in a sense. He was really turnover prone for most of the season. Then he simplified a little bit. Mainly because he's a little static when he breaks out. He tries really complex things. He sends suicide passes maybe a little too often. But when he carries the puck, he has moments of brilliance. He manipulates. He executes really high difficulty plays. plays, and he has protection elements too. Like he'll lean into defenders proactively and drive around them, and really just create a lot of advantages. The big question is like, is all this translatable?
Yep.
When you look at like his skating, like there's good skaters are able to get their knees over their toes, and he doesn't really do that to a large extent. He recovers wide too, which limits kind of the explosive potential he has. And when you're talking about like an environment in the WHL versus like an environment in pro hockey, you just have pacier, bigger defenders that can really stymie you in the neutral zone, and everything's just a lot harder. And he just can create a lot of advantages right now. I think like that's the positive of Yakimchuk. The negative is that he's really not a nuanced defender at all. So like when we're scouting defenders, we look for players that are like really that are playing proactive, that are reading the play, and he's kind of puck focused. He tries to use his range a lot. Like he really leverages his range, so he'll swing hard with the stick to try to disrupt, but it's very reactive in a sense. We talk about like multivariable defensive situations where just a lot of plays just change, or the puck is changing possession and people are activating all over the place. And that's when he really gets into trouble, just reading what's going on. So what happens is he's over aggressive. It leads to like, he leaves checks and everything. He wants to battle, which is good. Like, and he's kind of a beast along the boards. But when you're talking about like a pro environment where execution is just a lot higher than the WHL, you just wonder if he can actually operate in a pro setting properly without a lot of defensive development. And that's not even mentioning like his rush defense. You know, the NHL is just, it's a rush game now, through and through. And he has really good mobility, but he overcommits with his feet. He has a really loose gap, which means like he's just not in the right. He just not in the right distance to really stop people, and he just makes a lot of risky plays. Body position is also, you know, a randomly weird thing that he has problems with, like back facing the play, allowing attackers to really drive inside when he should be the one really pushing them aside. So I think like there's risk, but there's a lot of upside, and I don't want to get too bogged down in his hockey sense, because it is above average. Like when we do like a 9 grade scale, like I think we're gonna land like he's gonna be like a 5.5 or a 6th grade sense player, just because he's so gifted offensively. But you know, there is a lot of there's a lot of concerns, at least on my end, watching him now 8 times, that there's just a lot to work on defensively.
All right, so I mean, a lot to unpack there, but I mean, you mentioned, right, the 6'3" right-handed shot. Why do you think he's not maybe higher up on boards? Like he's usually kind of like the 5th or 6th defenseman, you know, like a Landon Dickinson, you know, Silyev, whomever you want. But like, I mean, this guy, like you said, produced on a team that was really bad. Had 30 goals. It was like, this seems like a lot here, and maybe he's overcompensated because he's on such a bad team that he has to kind of feels like he has to try too hard. Like you mentioned, he's taking a bajillion shots a game. But like, it seems like there's a lot of intriguing aspects that, and you know, GMs love 6'3" mobile right-hand defenseman, right?
Yeah, he's mean too. Like I have a funny story. I have a funny story. Like Calgary was in Prince George, and I went to the game, and there was a room full of scouts that all traveled up. They all flew in to Prince George. It's a 10-hour drive from Vancouver. Like it's pretty far north, so they have to fly in. It takes time. They got to be here all day. And first play of the game, he just absolutely like goons a forward on a retrieval, hits him right in the back, then beats the hell out of another guy in a fight, kicked out of the game. And I look over to the scout beside me, and it's like he just heard the worst news of his life. He dropped his pen like 10 seconds into the game. Like imagine that, like you're away from your family.
Your whole like weekend is shot.
Yeah, he came up on a Friday night to Prince George to come see Yakimchuk, and he gets kicked out. And then to make it worse, the guy comes up the stairs and kicks me out of my seat because I'm sitting in the team areas. I had to go sit in the stands. So it's
All right, guys, before we continue about Carter Yakemchuk, look at his timeline and development and why this kind of feels very much like a Mike Grier pick. Just need to take a quick break. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So if you want to go check out the Stanley Cup playoffs, if you want to bet on the NBA playoffs, or if you just want, maybe go check out the Giants game, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Like there's a lot to like. To answer your first question of why others over him, this draft is full of rangy, big, but raw defenders who have similar sense profiles in the sense that they're kind of the sense isn't super high, but the certainty that these guys are going to be top 4, top pairing NHL players is very, very high. A guy like Sam Dickinson, Lashanov, Peric, even he's a different profile. Biome, like you're looking at guys that have maybe a little more defensive sense, but at the same time, just higher profile tools than Yakemchuk. Yakemchuk's tools are pretty elite, but I think he just falls back because the defensive game requires so much work. Forget what your second question was though. Beyond that,
it wasn't important.
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing, right? It's just like because I mean we've done a ton of these defensive profiles.
Sorry, and also there's multiple defenders playing in tougher situations like the NCAA and proving that they're top players in that regard, and you've seen them all, right? They're like it's much different to be doing this stuff against NCAA players who are like early 20s versus 16 to 20-year-olds in the WHL in the Eastern Conference, which was a bit weaker in my opinion in the WHL this year.
Makes sense. All right, so we know you mentioned the defensive game. What type of time is this, where you're probably going to need like 3 to 4 years, maybe, 2 more years in the W, another season or 2 seasons in the in the AHL before you really start to kind of see him make an impact in the NHL?
I think for Yakemchuk, that's probably fair. That being said, defenders are jumping in earlier and earlier on bottom seeded teams.
Mm-hmm.
You look at like Kevin Korchinski just walking into the NHL and, very similar player in the sense that the defensive sense was really poor. And they just kind of threw him in and like learn on the fly, learn in an NHL environment and just figure it out essentially. Yakemchuk's size, his handedness, the fact that he's been doing this in the WHL for a long time. Obviously you have to contend with the the CHL, AHL age agreements and all that kind of good stuff. But essentially, I think that timeline's probably fair. Like at the end of the day, but you never know. Like he has size, he skates pretty well. It's down to whatever the plan is and team comp. And for the Sharks, they seem to like to slow roll guys into the AHL, and like Calgary's going to get better. He's going to be even more prolific. He plays in a lot of high leverage situations, right? And that's what you kind of want him to be. Like he's going to be playing 30 minutes a night. He's going to be a general the entire time. He's going to be manipulating guys. He's going to be just flexing his offensive skills. And I think that's a good environment for him.
Yeah, and I mean, he will be 19 in September, so I guess he could technically do like 1 more year because he'll have gotten 3 full seasons. And if he wanted to make the jump to the A, but I mean that's a conversation for a different day for him. And we've seen actually with Grier, he's been a little bit more I want to say trigger, but he's been like you saw, like Galen LaRocque could have gone back for another season, especially coming off the injury. They wanted him. I know Galen LaRocque dealing with injury, maybe wanted to keep him around that way. He can kind of keep an eye on his rehab. Look at like Jake Furlong in the queue is probably going to be making his. He could probably go back for one more year, but is expected to make his. So I could see where Grier is, especially with the defenseman, wanting to kind of get them in house here sooner rather than later, because the Sharks blue line's a hot mess, and just maybe having them around, having them at home could definitely help. So Carter Yakemchuk, what type of, if he kind of hits what his ceiling, what type of player are you potentially expecting out of him? Could he be a bona fide like 1D, like first line defensive pairing for you on a good team?
He has the upside to be that.
Mm-hmm.
I compare him kind of like he's kind of similar to Evan Bouchard in the sense that that's kind of the I'm not saying he's Evan Bouchard, but I'm saying like when you're looking at an archetype of a guy that can really flex offensively, really use his tools to help his team score, but isn't he isn't the smartest processor. He doesn't. There's big gaps in the defensive zone, but the plus of the offensive game is just so prolific that it doesn't really matter. That's kind of how I see him.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're looking at like guys that are his size, with his tools, like part of the why this draft is like kind of awesome is that despite sense issues, like these guys are all going to be top 4 defenders. Like uh the NHL is just trending that way. And you're just seeing it with other players that they're just walking in and just having success. And I don't think he has number one upside, but maybe a number one on a team that doesn't have a number one, right? If that makes sense, right? Like you're talking about a guy that maybe is playing up in a position but can manage those minutes. I think that's fair.
I mean, the Sharks don't have a 1, 2, or 3. They have basically they have a 4 in Mario Ferraro and like 6, 5 through 6 defensemen right now. So I think anything above that right now, Sharks fans would be happy to take. So for Yakemchuk, this sounds a lot like a Mike Grier pick, right? He likes big. We know he kind of likes big defensemen. You look at acquiring Shakir Mukhamadullin, 6'4", the offensive upside, and we know Grier likes that kind of in-your-face attitude, style of play. And Yakemchuk feels like he kind of fits all the boxes. And if he's there at 14. I think Mike Grier is going to have a very long, hard conversation with his scouts about kind of talking him out of picking Yakemchuk, especially if the Sharks are still looking for that kind of top end defenseman to whether he's a 1 or maybe like a really high 2 on a team. Again, that's just something the Sharks do not have right now, I think, outside of Shakir Mukhamadullin. So
yeah, we have him on our last board. We have him 18. He's probably going to stay in that range. So 14 is completely defensible when you look at what tools he brings and the offensive brain and the way he scores goals and the way he just goes about his game. So I think be a fine pick there. You're not reaching or anything.
All right, guys, before we finish up with Daniel and we talk about the 2024 NHL Draft, any spoiler, he loves Cayden Lindstrom. Just need to take a quick break. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. They have unique stickers you can trade with your friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting your friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constant changing tournaments and challenges, a ton of including their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or robotic pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, Daniel, I have not gotten your thoughts on the 2024 NHL Draft, so let's have a conversation. It's Macklin Celebrini's world, right? And we're just living in it. Is he your number one, I assume?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. What he did at the NCAA level is pretty ridiculous. The mental, the physical pace, the tools. Um,
He's only
yeah,
17. That's the part I can't get over.
it's absurd, right? Like just the best player by a long margin. So he's number one. I think Demidov is number two, and then you're into like big guys like
Mhm.
Cayden Lindstrom, who's like my favorite of the draft. Like that guy, the guy he's a monster out there. There's a lot of people saying he has hockey sense issues. I don't think so at all. He absolutely kills guys on the boards. He's he he's he's so much power in his game. Like the upside is just endless with him. And then you get into, Zane Perrick, who's doing historic things in the OHL. You get into Tija Ginla, Berkeley Catton, some skilled forwards in the WHL. Like, if you're picking in the top of the draft, you're doing pretty well. And I think this is a good draft to have lots of picks because I think as you go down deeper into the 30 to 80 range, there's a
Yep.
lot more like we do an A, B, and C grade, A, B, C, D grade, and F. And the last couple drafts just haven't had a lot of C grade players like that project to be NHLers, maybe not super prolific ones, but ones that can actually be impact and drive play and stuff like that. And I think this draft is pretty deep in that regard. I think you can even get some steals later in the first round. Like you have guys like Tarek Parasak, Harrison Brunicky, Ryder Ritchie, and a bunch of WHL guys, Sasha Boivert. Like there's a lot of skill there. I know that some people don't think the draft's very good. I think it's pretty good. Uh, Especially if you're picking, where the Sharks are picking. Like you're getting two players that are going to be part of the puzzle the puzzle for a really long time, and the certainty is very high that they turn out to be good, which is good for any rebuilding team.
Yeah, and I think this year maybe it's just not the flash like last year, right? With Connor Bedard, you have a generational player. You have Fantilli, Carlson, like guys who would have been first round picks in basically any other or first overall picks in any
Absurd
draft.
year. It's just
Absurd year last year. Like it's I think we might have been spoiled with that, but like you mentioned, the Sharks have 4 picks in the top 42, assuming they keep the Penguins pick. I'm assuming they keep it with like a 1% chance to move up, but like the Sharks are in a really good position to walk away with like between last year's draft when you getting Will Smith, Quentin Musty, this year's draft with whoever they're able to get, and then next year where they're again spoiler they're probably not going to be very good next year. Then you also have Vegas's pick. You're kind of setting the foundation for your franchise here, and that's what good teams do, right? That's the best way to build a team is to draft really high and get good players and hope that they turn out to be really good players, right?
And like you said, the players that Grier is drafting, like you have a high end player in Will Smith, but then you have Musty who has the physical and hard skills to go along with that, right? So like you're looking at like say you get Celebrini and you get Yakemchuk, you add that to the mix with Shakir, and you're like and then I like some of the other auxiliary prospects the Sharks have like Cardwell and Cole and
Cardwell had
Gushin.
an amazing year as a
Yeah,
rookie.
these guys are going to be players, and you can kind of start to see things kind of develop here. Which is always like you're basically selling hope at this stage, and
Oh,
getting these
believe me, buddy,
players
I've been doing it since October.
yeah, right. And so and that's all you really need some hope, right?
Yeah.
So if you have that, I think fans can see that and move forward with that with excitement, right?
So we kind of touched on the defenseman earlier, but like, how do you kind of personally, again, with so many guys kind of really bunched together here, which guys say the Sharks don't get Celebrini, which guys would you maybe look at in the top 5 there if you're Mike Grier?
Well, if they pick second, they should take Demidov. Just a very dynamic player. I don't have a ton of views on him other than just seeing stuff by osmosis,
Oh,
but
he's ridiculous. Yeah.
ridiculous, right? And Cayden Lindstrom, fits Mike Grier's profile.
I do love Cayden
Like
Lindstrom.
injury issues, but Matt, like I went to a game. He came to Prince George. He had an end-to-end power move where he deked out like the F1, F2, then he split the defense, and like to see a 6'5" guy do that, like it was just pandemonium. And then like even if you want to reach, like you're looking at like a skill guy like Berkeley Catton or Tijiginla, right? Perrick's a high-end offensive mind, right? Like this guy scored 33 goals as a defender. Like uh it's it's like I saw someone made a tweet. I think it was like a Habs account or something, but I agreed with it, and it basically said something like this is just like a no stress year almost. Like not saying there's not stress, but like it's a
Yeah.
no stress year in the sense that there's like no glaring guys in that grouping in the top 10 that are like you're just a little scared about. Like all these guys are pretty sick players, right? And especially with like a guy like Cole Eiserman that's just kind of dropping down just because there's obvious sense issues there.
Mhm.
He's not really in that range anymore. I think like the riskiest guy is Silyaev, right? Like in the KHL, but you're talking about a 6'8" guy that can take 3 strides and cut and cross 3 lines, right?
Yeah.
Like there's rawness there, but like that guy could go number 2, right? Like that's just like a ridiculous athlete, right? So like I think the Sharks are in a great position there with their top pick, wherever they pick, right? Obviously, bringing Macklin Celebrini to his second home, I think that's that'd be pretty nice for the organization.
I
But
hear you as a Vancouver guy there. I hear you
yeah,
on that one. All right. His dad lives here. Okay.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. His dad was the medical guy for the Canucks for a long time,
And
and
now
then
he works
the
for
Golden
the.
State Warriors poached him, and yeah. So
He wanted to win
interesting.
stuff.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why he wanted to
yeah,
win stuff.
yeah.
Um, really quick on Lindstrom. So I mean, because I love Lindstrom. You've talked about your love. If he hypothetically, if he doesn't break his hand, are we talking about him as like almost a lock as like the second pick?
I don't know, right? Like it really depends. Like I think Demidov probably going second, but regardless. But like when you're looking at like NHL scouts and what they value, and you look at the playoffs, like the big players are just dominating. Like they like it's as simple as that. Like I kind of relate Lidstrom to like Todd Bertuzzi the way he plays.
Mhm.
It's like you're talking about like a prolific level power forward with a lot of skill. So like an NHL team could look at that and go like, I think that upside is pretty endless. I think there's less risk there by taking a really like a high character guy too.
Yep.
Colleague Mitch Brown wrote a crazy article where he interviewed Willie Desjardins as coach. He talked to Cayden Lindstrom, and his trajectory of development has been like it's like steep. And when
Yep.
you're talking about that, like that means that he has even more to go. Like when you're looking at pathing, development wise. So, it's unfortunate he got injured so much, but like I just have all the time in the world for that guy. He's just awesome.
All right, Daniel, we'll get you out of here. The last 2 questions. Number 1, not including Macklin Celebrini, 5 years from now, who's the best player from this draft?
Best player. I don't know if I believe this, but I'll go with Tijiginla. I think
can
he
see it.
has. I think he has every opportunity to be, a dynamic goal scorer in the NHL. He's probably the best one-on-one player in terms of ability to beat someone with his hands, and then he has just a variety of different ways to score. Like, yeah, he has all the physical skill you need to really dominate in the NHL. He has a robust give and go game. I could really see down the line, like him being a lot higher in redrafts, and I think the elite prospects board is gonna reflect that our final board when we do get around to doing that we're super high on that guy. And you look at his family, like he's gonna have every chance to that he's gonna have access to anything he needs to
literally
become
a Hall of Fame player. And is that you could pick his brain about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and just the training and like the coaching and like I was sitting Seattle versus Prince George in the first round, where Prince George got just wiped, and Iginla wasn't playing; he was scratched. And I remember looking over and him sitting with the players, and then flash forward 1 year later, and I'm sitting in the stands, and he's like the most dynamic player in the game for Kelowna. Just 1 year, right? So when we're just talking about Cayden Lindstrom and his trajectory of development, Iginla's trajectory has been like absolutely ridiculous in that regard, right? And then when you factor in what we just talked about, like he could end up being pretty crazy. He's a bit of inefficient at times, just because I think he's still working through like what is what he can actually what he can actually accomplish with all of his tools. But I think he's going to be a ridiculous player.
All right, and then last question: where does Carter Yakemchuk go in the NHL draft? What pick?
I think he goes. It's tough. Lots of I think he goes. Let's just say 12. I think he goes.
Congrats to the Flyers.
Yeah, I think
that makes a lot of sense too.
Like, I think it makes sense. Like we're talking about, the right-hand shot profile is pretty rare, right? Like the way he reduces offense, I think it just makes sense in that range. I could see him going a lot later too, but we've been seeing defenders go off the board pretty quickly. They're prioritized, and I think like the other defenders we talked about are going to be off the board very quickly, and Yakemchuk's going to be there, kind of a second group.
Daniel, you said it all. Where can the people find you, buddy?
Just find me on Twitter, Daniel G Scouting, and in June, beginning of June, we'll have our draft guide out. It's going to be bigger and better, and lots of
hefty. I loved it. It's hefty. It is, yes. Every year it gets better and better. Yes.
Yeah, it's seen some mock-ups. It looks really, really good. Really excited about it. So, watching hundreds of hours of tape in the last couple of weeks just to kind of put the buttons on, right? And I'm going to keep doing it, and it's going to be good. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Can't wait.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks to Daniel G for joining, talking about, Carter Yakemchuk and some of the 2024 NHL draft. We'll be back next week. Of course, we have the NHL draft lottery. We have more draft profiles coming and continue to kind of digest the season that was for the 2023-2024 San Jose Sharks. So make sure you guys are following wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Until next time, bye, friends.